Hello, BookTube. The title of this video is maybe a little bit of a misnomer. I'm calling it a weekly reading vlog, but it's more like a channel update, really. I thought about titling the video like channel update or something like that, but that sounded a little bit clickbaity, as if there was some big drama or if the channel was changing drastically or something like that. And it's nothing like that. It's just I'm traveling, so I'm just updating a little bit of my schedule as I travel. So if you've been watching my past weekly reading vlogs, I've been alluding to this a bit. For the past month, I was hosting my parents as they were visiting me here in Vietnam. They were actually sleeping in this bed right here, which is one of the reasons I wasn't making the weekly reading vlogs while they were here. And then we capped that off. I had a week off from work over the Christmas New Year holidays. So we were traveling to the Phu Quoc Island in Vietnam during that time. I'm now, the way the holiday schedule has worked out this year is a little bit strange. I'm back now for 1 week of work. Sorry, I feel like I've got something on my lip, but I think it's just a reflection. Ignore me. I'm back for 1 week of work, and then I'm going to my wife's hometown for 3 weeks for the Vietnamese Lunar New Year holiday, otherwise known as the Tet holiday. And during that time, I'll be staying at my parents-in-law's place, my wife's parents, who live out in the middle of nowhere in the countryside. And I'm going to have limited internet access, and I may be making some videos, but I'm not sure I'll be able to upload anything. When I say making some videos, I mean just making some videos of the landscape, my travel videos. So this is just kind of an update on the state of my reading. The last time I made a weekly reading vlog, I was still working on the Peloponnesian War by Donald Kagan and the Odyssey by Homer. Over my Christmas holiday, I finished up both of them. So now I need to review them, but I'm not gonna have time to review them this week. And then I'm gonna be in the countryside for 3 weeks, in which I'm not gonna be able to shoot that video. So that means I'm gonna have to review them when I get back at the end of January, beginning of February. I'm a little bit worried that by the time I get around to making my review of these, they're not gonna be quite as sharp in my mind, but I'm probably the only one who's worried about that. I mean, the world does not need another commentary on the Odyssey. This has been reviewed to death. It's just my own ego that wants people to think my own analysis of it is brilliant. But if it's a little bit foggy in my mind, it's no great loss to the literary world. And I'll just do my best with this when I get back. I have actually already in the past few days since I finished this been listening to the audiobook version of this on YouTube to refresh it in my mind. Peloponnesian War, I can't find an audio of this on YouTube, although I will listen to some of Donald Kagan's lectures on the Peloponnesian War. It's not quite the same as an audio of his book, but will overlap heavily in content. And then, sometime in the next month or so, hopefully I'll come in with reviews of these. We'll see how that shakes out. Now, my reading material for the next month, or for the next 3 weeks where I'm out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to be bringing all these books with me, hopefully. Still arguing with my wife a little bit over the luggage space for books. And I'm a slow reader, so this is probably overly ambitious for me to bring this many books out there. But it's out in the countryside in the middle of nowhere. So there is absolutely nothing else to do except read when I'm out there. And the last thing I want to do is run out of books. I spend all year lamenting that I don't have time to read. Imagine if I was stuck in this house in the countryside with nothing but time to read and no books with me. It would be like that episode of The Twilight Zone, like all the time. Like, oh, it's not fair. I finally had the time. So, The Storm Before the Storm by Mike Duncan, which I started earlier this week. I mentioned in a previous weekly reading vlog that my parents had brought this out to me. Started it earlier this week. I'm 60 pages into it, finding it absolutely fascinating so far. I'm really glad I'm reading it. So I'm going to finish that up. And then I went to the library, and there's a library at my school. Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, something that I think for like 10 years now or something, people have been recommending this book to me. When did it come out? 2009, yeah. So for like about 10 years now, people, I mean, 2009 was more than 10 years ago, but I first heard about this book about 10 years ago, and people have been recommending it to me for about 10 years. So finally getting around to this one. And then pick this one out in the library as well. This is a book on My Lai. This is a nonfiction. So My Lai, for anyone who doesn't know, is a village in Vietnam. The Vietnamese actually refer to it by something different. I think they call it like My San or San Lai or something like that. But it's commonly known in the American media as My Lai. Village in Vietnam, which during the Vietnam War, the American soldiers went in and just killed everybody, the men, the women, the children, and they were all civilians, non-combatants, but it was just a pointless massacre of a village. And then a year or so later, through a series of events which are narrated in this book, the American media got a hold of that story, and it became a big media event during the Vietnam War. I'm sure it will be somewhat depressing subject matter, of course, but I was flipping through this book in the library, and it looks really well written. Like, the guy who writes it has recreated scenes and recreated conversations, not only of the massacre, but about the investigation and the trial and the cover-up and all that kind of stuff. So it looks like it's really well written just from flipping through it. And my wife's hometown is in the same province as My Lai. In fact, it's only a couple towns over from My Lai. So I thought to myself, if I'm ever going to read this book, I may as well read it while I'm in the area, right? I mean, what better time to read it? And the province that my wife lives in is in Quang Ngai. That's referred to as Pinkville by the U.S. Marines, that whole province. I did kind of think to myself, I wonder if this is really appropriate to bring this book over. Maybe people don't want to be reminded of it, or maybe it's a little bit ghoulish to be reading this book over there. But I do want to read up more about My Lai at some point, and I thought if I should read the book while I'm there. While I'm in the province, so that it'll help me to visualize it more or something. I don't know. Then from the library, I got Journey to the West, which is actually 4 volumes. This will keep me busy, huh? Journey to the West is one of the great classics of Chinese literature. it's also extremely popular in Japan and Vietnam, and to a lesser extent in Cambodia. Um, so meaning that it's from China, but it's considered a classic all over Asia. In the same way that the ancient Greek and Roman canon is considered a classic all over the Western world. I first heard about this when I was living in Japan. It's been in China and Japan. It's been adapted into comic books and TV series and movies. My wife, who's Vietnamese, was telling me there was a very popular TV show from China that was dubbed into Vietnamese about this book a few years ago. And I've been meaning for years to get around to reading the Chinese classics, because as I've been living out here in Asia, I've been aware that these are not just classics for China. These are classics these are considered classics in the whole Asian hemisphere. And I feel like it's kind of weird that we in the West don't talk about these books at all, or we. Sorry, this is really another rant for another day. Really, I don't want to get too sidetracked on this. But point being, I've been meaning to get around to reading this book for years, and I thought, okay, get these out from the library. And then Dune, which I got from the bookstore here when my parents were visiting a couple weeks ago, so this is kind of a new book for me. This is something that's been on my radar for a while now, but has been pushed to the front of my radar by a couple of booktubers. William over at William's Library has recently been talking about it, and Steve Donahue talked about it recently, both on his own channel and on his CPL radio show that he does on another channel. Both of them praising it very highly. So I think I commented on one of their videos something like, okay, I'm convinced. I'm going to pick this up as soon as I see it. And then I saw it in the bookstore. While I'm talking about a book haul, I've got two more books here, which I just picked up at the Work Exchange which I just picked up at the Book Exchange at work. Once again, I'm filming this video somewhat under sleep deprivation. It's been a busy week back at work here, and with the kids and everything, I'm not getting enough sleep. But 3 weeks off coming up, in which I'll be in the countryside and hopefully getting a lot more sleep. But Fahrenheit 451, one of those classics which I'm ashamed to say I just never got around to reading. So I saw this on the Book Exchange at work, and I thought I'm just gonna have to grab that one. I'm not gonna bring this. Sorry, a book just fell over. I'm not going to bring it on my trip now, because my wife has told me this is my limit. In fact, it's still being debated whether I can bring this much books. But get around to it sometime, hopefully. And then Race of a Lifetime, which is about the 2008 presidential race, which I remember well. It seems like it was just yesterday to me. I was following it in the news every day while it was going on. But I'd like to start reading more of these recent political books, kind of the first draft of history type journalism books. Steve Donahue talks a lot about these types of books on his channel, so I thought I'd like to get more into it. And flipping through it, it looks like this is well written. But yeah, these two aren't coming along on the trip. It's just these ones. So I'll check back in 3 weeks, and we'll see how much progress I've made on this. I think my plan is to finish this one off first, Then I might as well do the My Lai one because I want to make sure I read that when I'm in My Lai. Then I don't know. Both of these books have been really recommended to me a lot. I'm sure they'll both be great. I might do Hilary Mantel, the Wolf Hall one first because it's a library book. So, try and get it back to the library as soon as possible. Then I'm doing Dune, and I'm Journey to the West is the one in reserve. So this is just to make sure I do not positively do not run out of reading material while I'm up there. I also will be looking after two young kids while I'm up there. So it's not like I'll have complete freedom to just lounge around and read all day. But with the relatives helping out and taking turns with the kids, I'm thinking I'll have a fair amount of time. I'm probably bringing more books than I need, but like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm just would rather lug around more books than I need than risk running out while I'm up there. So I imagine this may be the last video you see from me for 3 weeks. Unless you don't. I mean, if I film like a travel video while I'm up there and it turns out I'm able to upload it on the internet, then I will. And then if not, then I'll see you in 3 weeks or so.